Hi, it's Jonathan Simkin with Zaya Khan to my left. Coming to you. What day is it? I'm going to look and see what day it is.
Friday, March 15th.
Oh, is that the Ides of March, the 15th, or is that the 13th? Oh, it is the Ides of March? I don't know what the fuck that means.
I don't know what that... This is my first time hearing about it, to be honest.
The Ides of March? It's a famous thing that comes from something. I don't even know.
Do you want me to look it up?
Yeah, why don't you look up the Ides of March, because it would be nice to not come across like a complete fucking idiot.
It's the assassination of Julius Caesar.
Right, that's right. That's exactly what it is.
Dang.
Ouch. Yeah, that's why they say beware the Ides of March. It's not a good thing. Okay, well, I'm glad I brought that up. Holy fuck.
Yo.
Nice way to start a podcast, talking about somebody's assassination. Well, that's okay. It's a beautiful day in Vancouver.
It is. We're wearing short sleeves. Yeah. It's
supposed to be nice this weekend.
Yeah.
Which, we may not have a Stanley Cup in this city, but you know what? You take one look outside on a day like today and Toronto can go fuck itself.
Yeah. Well, we'll fuck Toronto later. Let's just focus on the Canucks here.
We can focus on the Canucks.
Yeah. We'll fuck Toronto later in the episode and throughout the season for sure, and even throughout the playoffs, right? And also, Ramadan. So I'm trying not to swear. My mom's just like, you got to clean your mouth for it. Like,
okay, well, I'll do the swearing for you. You don't have to swear.
No, I'm still gonna swear. I have so much hate towards Toronto right now.
Well, I have. It's funny when you do podcasts because you schedule them to do them. We do them on Fridays, and which is great. But you never know what kind of day you're gonna have. So, I had just a shit day, on about a million different levels, including a bad sleep, but also including, I have to do blood work because of a medical condition. So, I every so often I have to do blood work and I have to fast before the blood work. And so, I didn't eat last night and, I had an early dinner and then couldn't eat, and it's fine. But, so you wake up feeling all, and then I get over to the lab, and then then they take a bunch of blood from you, and you feel even worse. But the appointment was late; they weren't ready, so they were backed up. So I had to wait a bit, and by the time I finally got my blood done, I had a Zoom meeting starting in 3 minutes. So I had to run to my car, start a Zoom meeting. Luckily, there was a pizza place right by, so I grabbed a slice of pizza, and I'm sort of on this Zoom. I must have looked like a maniac, kind of shoving food in my mouth just to give me the slightest bit of energy, and then just having a couple of shitty things happen. Nothing that's the end of the world, but and then it's like, hello, welcome to the podcast. Oh, how are you? I'm Jonathan here.
I'm sure you're not the only one, though.
Of course not.
There's got to be a lot of dudes similar to your position, or a lot of big time hosts.
They're on the radio every day, and I'm sure one of the guys might have a fight with his wife in the morning, and then he's got to get over to the podcast, and it's on. So, anyways, it's my way of saying I'm a little distracted today, people. So, bear with me. I'm feeling a little distracted. I'm feeling a little tired.
It's funny that you bring that up.
Cranky.
I have a pretty funny Elliot Friedman story. Friedman, he's a great guy. When I did do my small stint at Rogers Radio, but specifically at City News 1130, the Sportsnet 650 guy who was working the evening shift that time had to make a call to Friedman because there was a trade for the Canucks, who I don't remember, or there was big Canucks news. I forgot what it was. So he was given two numbers. One was Friedman's personal line and one was Friedman's business line. And it was already 7 o'clock Vancouver time. So 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So he gets the call. He gets two numbers, doesn't get told which number is what, calls Elliot, and Elliot responds, hey, I'm with my fucking kids right now. This is my personal line. Fuck off for a minute. He's a dad and he does that. I don't blame him for going through that. So it's just it happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I've been hangry. Poor producer Johnson has been dealing with my hangry Slack messages when it comes to work stuff, and she's still here.
Yeah.
So it's a great week for her. Yeah. See, she's agreed.
Well, I guess for me, my job, this is the only sort of public facing aspect of my job, really. I mean, I tweet a lot, so I guess that's public facing, but that's a little different.
But it's pretty fun, though. Speaking of fun, we'll start off. All right. Now, anything out there, Boss Man Simkin, before we jump straight into the last two games prior to this recording?
You know what I do want to talk about, which I know you ran a quick agenda by me, which all sounded fine, but the one thing you didn't mention, which I just thought was interesting, was that Connor Garland and Philip Hronek got into a fist fight at practice yesterday.
I did not hear about that practice yesterday. No.
Or day
way.
before. It's Friday. It would have been Wednesday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they even asked him about it at the and it was interesting. Like I thought, Talkett was interesting. He's like, I don't mind guys getting into battles at practice. I don't mind that. But, don't do stuff that's stupid. I couldn't quite tell if he was saying what they did was stupid or if what he was saying was that, they were just, boys will be boys. But I thought it was interesting. Why those two? The only other fight I remember in practice this year was Garland again with Dakota Joshua, who ended up becoming not only line mates, but really working well together. But you didn't hear about that, huh?
No.
It was...
I did not hear about that because I will be honest, the first few days of Ramadan really kicked my ass. So it's like,
why?
My ass.
Were you fasting?
Yeah, I'm fasting. The thing is, it's like the first week always sucks. And today's the first day where I finally felt well rested. Like I'm like, oh, okay, like this now my body's getting accustomed to it. But the first 3 to 4 days, it's brutal.
No, I hear you.
You just hate everything for the first 3 to 4 days.
How many days you don't eat?
30 days.
You don't eat?
So you don't eat or drink water for 30 days, but you know how Muslims have the 5 prayers a day? So you open your fast. So that's when you have your breakfast before the morning prayer, which is referred to as Fajr, and that's just before sunrise. And then you break your fast at sunset, and that's called Maghrib. And
okay, but you're not fasting in the sense of not eating anything at all for 30 days.
No, it's not like that. Yeah. I die. Like we're not dying. We just, we have hours throughout the day to which we feel like we're dead until we adjust. But I've adjusted pretty well today. Today's the first day where I.
So when will you next
adjusted.
Eat today?
That's gonna be 7:30.
And then can you eat as much as you want?
Yeah, 7:30 to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Wow.
I can eat or drink as much as I want.
Wow, I am learning things I did not know.
Man, the 3 Abrahamic religions we saw, we stick together, man.
Well, here's what it says. I just Googled Hronek, and it says, scenes from practice, changes to the Canucks blue line, and a scuffle between Hronek and Garland.
Oh.
And it's funny, it says, a day after a frustrating, I should give credit to who I am, it's Jeff Patterson. A day after a frustrating loss to the Colorado Avalanche, frustration boiled over briefly during the Canucks practice at Rogers Arena on Thursday in the middle of a small area game towards the end of the hour-long session. Philip Hronek and Connor Garland briefly came to blows. The glove stayed on, and the mix-up didn't last long. I know it was broken up by Cole, too. that I heard on the radio. Dang. It's interesting. It was the day after that game, which maybe tells you something. What a strange game
that was.
Yeah. And, I always take JoJo Mason to the Avalanche games because he's a fan. I like to do that. Like, there's a few people like Montreal, I always take Matt Lazell from the matinee because he's a fan. So, it's nice. I can do a nice favor for somebody. So I took JoJo and, I even tweeted before the puck dropped, like, I hope I'm not going to regret, bringing an Avs fan to the game. And that was a strange game because...
Did you see what he tweeted after that, though?
Who?
JoJo.
No, I didn't.
He took a selfie with your seat because you had left. He's just like, oh, man, where are you going? Because he had already left after the OT game.
We left together, so that's bullshit. But I think I just went to the washroom, but motherfucker. No, listen, you know what? He's entitled. But it was a strange game. I've never seen the team look both more dominant and more
discombobulated.
Yeah.
Because it's weird, like, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but you know how much of a fan I am of Zadorov. It's weird to see him play that open ice game, but I think with this, you kind of realize you need him to adjust his game in the midst of it as well. Like, stop. You're not the mobile defenseman in this case. Play shutdown defense if you have a 3-0 lead. Like, that's what you use your body for now.
Well, it was the goal with 1.8 seconds left in the second that killed us. I said it to JoJo when it happened. I said, this is going to be a big problem for us. This is going to be a big problem coming out in the second period or third period. Now, with that fresh in your mind, that's going to be a problem. And DeSmith had been playing great, and he did play great. You know what? That loss wasn't his fault.
Nope.
I don't think there was a single goal that was like, oh my God, how did that go in?
Those were snipes. Every shot was a killer shot. But Ross Colton, I understand that was a grinded up, like, backhand shot in front of the net. But even Nichushkin with the deflected shot as well. Like, these shots that were taken on him, the slapper from McKinnon, the tip in from Rantanen, these were tough shots for
he was
Smith
just
to
fine.
stop. And it felt like our defense collapsed in front of the net. Because there's 2 tipping goals out of those 4. And one of them's a crash to net backhand. So that's where I question, Zadorov, you're great in the two-way game, but there are times where you have to adjust and just play defense.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, it's funny because the first 2 periods, Colorado could not get anything going, and they were so trapped up in the neutral zone. Like, anything they tried to do in the neutral zone led to a turnover to the Canucks, and it was really impressive, like really, and it was very much along the lines of the Vegas game on the road and the LA game on the road and the Anaheim game, where it was the defense that was really what was impressive, more than the offense. Colorado looked lost for the first 2. I mean, it wasn't just that they looked lost for the first 2. That fucking goal. Like, if that goal hadn't been scored, I think it might have been a 5-0 game.
Yep.
Instead, it gave them life. It gave them momentum, and we fucking collapsed. I mean, that's the kind of game where you want to come out in the third hard. You want to come out strong. And they didn't. They came out defensively. They came out scared, looking scared.
Scared is the right
term. And suddenly, the neutral zone was all Colorado's to do whatever the fuck they wanted, after 2 periods of them not being able to do shit.
Yep.
So I think that was more of a mental thing, which is disappointing this year because that hasn't happened a lot this year. But boy, it sure happened in the third period. That was brutal.
That was a rough one, especially against McKinnon. You're 100% right in the sense that they just dominated the neutral zone, and the Canucks played lockdown, but from within their blue line.
Oh.
They didn't have any zone control in the neutral zone at all.
I
no
kept
zone
saying
positioning.
it all game as it was happening. I was yelling like, why are you giving them so much room?
Why are you giving McKinnon so much room? McKinnon, like that power play goal. Like, I understand you there's really no way to guard the entry of the Avalanche power play because McKinnon's just that explosive, and then you factor in Cale Makar as the secondary option to that. It's insane. But you got to do something to just get a stick in there, maintain positioning, block the lanes, something. And that didn't happen for the entire third period. I did want to point out the lines, however, and I'm a little skeptical of the continuity that Tocchet has gone through every now and then. So before we get to that, though, we'll talk about how great it was to beat Winnipeg. I understand Winnipeg didn't have Toffoli that game, but they still had their core play. They still had Kyle Connor play. They still had Hellebuck that's starting goalie. You still had Josh Morrissey that was there. Brendan Dillon, who's a great top 4 defenseman on the left side.
You're mentioning Morrissey. I swear to God, I barely saw him. I barely noticed him.
Yeah, it's the weird thing about Morrissey is they're so used to seeing the puck on his stick all the time, and he can just control the game from the point. He's calm. It's hard to find a calm defenseman like that, but you didn't see him get the puck much at all, or he just shoveled it away.
None of their big players did shit that day.
No, they didn't.
The only thing I noticed about Scheifele was when Quinn Hughes beat him behind the net, and
that was great to watch.
Yeah, that was one of the more impressive. I mean, that was the 4th win in a row after 3 really impressive wins, which made the Colorado thing that much more just like ugh. At least we got a point.
Yeah.
On trying our best to fend off a surging Oilers team. And then Vegas loses again last night.
Which, hey man, if they want to ride out the LTIR because they went out and got Hurdle, who's on temporary IR. They're keeping Mark Stone on LTIR. We don't know. Their goalie situation is a little overrated.
Hurdle's not on. Is he hurt?
He's temporary IR. I don't know. He hasn't made his debut for the Golden Knights, I don't believe.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah, Tomas Hurdle is on temporary IR because that's how they acquired him. Because he's expected to return in the season. So he'll count against the cap still. LTIR, however, that's where Mark Stone lies.
And if Stone miraculously gets better,
which he's not going to get better, but if he does,
he can play.
He can play. Well, now then the Golden Knights are forced to put someone on waivers to free up that cap space for Mark Stone to play. And that would most likely be someone with a big contract. So that's Vegas taking advantage of the present LTIR system and how it works. It's still very confusing to me. I'm trying to read up about it, but it's just super effed up in general.
But they could, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but
they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're not. They're in danger of, I was looking at the Wild. I'm going to look at it right now, but they're the first. How many teams get in on the wild card? 3?
3 teams get in on the, no, 2 teams get in on a wild card. So 3 teams and the top 3 teams of each division make it, and then each conference has 2 teams make it on a wild card.
Okay, so right now, Vegas on the wild card standings, Vegas is second.
Yep.
They're 3 behind Nashville, and they're 4 ahead of Minnesota.
I just want to say wow to Nashville. Congrats to UC Saros. Great work by Ryan O'Reilly and Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi. Wow, have they been amazing. It's because it's Nashville that they've flown under the radar. It's one of your non-traditional hockey markets, but man, have the Predators been fun to watch when you do get a chance to see them. It's great hockey, just great in general.
So we are 9 points up on Edmonton, who have 3 games at hand?
Yes, they got 3 games on hand.
Oy.
Edmonton's do or die right now is the weird part is goaltending again, and that's I don't think Stuart Skinner is going to be consistent in the playoffs. If the Canucks are going to rest Demko to the playoffs, which they obviously will, and I think that's the smartest thing to do. If you told me who you're going to pick to save a team, Stuart Skinner or Thatcher Demko, I'm going Thatcher Demko. Now I'm not disrespecting that the game Stuart Skinner is playing now. He's doing great just the way he looks, but I don't rely on that consistency that much compared to Demko. So I'm going Demko over Stuart Skinner. I'm not too worried about the Pacific Division in general. I think the Canucks have that on lock regardless. I think Vegas, I don't think the Minnesota Wild are going to catch up on Vegas despite the Wild being 5 points behind them. I just don't think they have the proper depth to do it. You got your stars like Boldy, Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson Ek, but they're not. I'm calling it now. And
4 points behind them.
4 points behind them. I still don't think they're going to do it. I think Vegas is going to win enough games to get through. That's why they traded all those picks for Tomas Hurdle.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is an interesting.
And then of course Demko, which we haven't even talked about, and that was so strange because.
Do we know what the injury is?
Knee as opposed to groin, which I think is good news, and. Because groins are so fucking somebody gets a groin injury, they could be out a whole year.
Especially if you're a goalie.
Because you're constantly stretching it, constantly using it. And, that could have been a disaster. And it was funny that game because, he just left during a TV timeout. I didn't see anything. I didn't even notice that the goalies had switched until, the announcer said something. And it was like, oh. What? And everybody in the seats were like, what the fuck happened? Nobody even saw it. But what I thought was interesting and probably a good sign, I think, is that apparently Demko said to DeSmith at the beginning of the second, be ready because I'm not quite feeling right. So that is better than, I just tore something. I don't think he tore something. Something was hurting. Something wasn't feeling quite right to him. And I know it's the knee, not the groin. And I know they're saying 2 to 4 weeks. So if that's all true, great. He's going to be rested. I think the Smith will do good enough that we'll.
I think it'll be fun to see Artur Silovs start some games. Like start him against Montreal.
We have a back-to-back in this stretch that he's going to miss, and that will be, I'm guessing, that's if we don't see him before that, we'll see him.
So we luckily don't have a back-to-back for the rest of March. So we got Washington on Saturday.
Yep.
We got Buffalo the 19th, which is a Tuesday. Thursday, Montreal, and next Saturday, the Calgary Flames. I'd love to see Silovs get some time against Buffalo or Montreal. One of those teams that are, fun to watch, but aren't necessarily great anyways. So let's have some fun with him. Like, give him his time. Ride it through. And in that time, I hope Tocchet experiments with the forward group more. I'm going to say this much. I'm still very disappointed in Mikheyev, but I love watching Nils Höglander.
But he scored.
He did score.
Which,
I understand
that was a monkey off the back. Holy
yeah,
shit.
It was. I don't think he's going to score again, though. And this is coming from a guy who watched him 3 years on the Leafs, just begging him to score. And he had one 20-goal season, and that was on his contract year when he left the Leafs, period. So when you look at the next few games for the Canucks, I think the Canucks fans can take a deep breath out. There's no problems here. Washington, you're excited to see Ovi. Man, that's going to be a good one.
Yes.
Ovechkin coming into Vancouver. Do I want to rush in to break a Canadiens record? Ovechkin, yes. I do want to see that happen. I want to see him get to the league top.
Well,
obviously,
he's gonna have
won't
to play
happen
for another 2 years.
2 years. 20 goals in the next 2 years, though, is impossible for him. I think that can happen.
When is Joshua scheduled to come back?
Dakota Joshua is now undisclosed, but on a week-to-week basis. So that means they're not 100% sure, but they're calling it week-to-week. I think that's a key thing you brought up, which was their depth in the forward group. I don't think DiGiuseppe is filling in that fourth-line forecheck that's so strong for the
last
Canucks
couple
typically.
games were pretty good for him. He finally felt like because I liked him early in the year, and then I didn't so much. Last couple games, I thought he was quite good. I mean, he scored in one of them. Which one? Winnipeg? And
he scored.
I think it was a Winnipeg
Yeah,
game.
it was a Winnipeg game. He scored the third goal in the first period.
And it was a nice goal.
Yeah, it was a tip, and it was a good off the forecheck as well.
But yes, he's no Dakota Joshua.
And I love the ferocity behind Dakota Joshua, and that's what you're going to need heading into the playoffs. And that's why I'm happy that the Canucks are resting him. Now, big question before we cap off the episode here. Do you think that little tussle between Hronek and Garland is going to echo and cause some problems in the locker room? And
No, not at all.
Because Hronek got moved from Detroit because the rumor was he wasn't the number one right D anymore. And which was clear. He wasn't happy not being that number one right D. Moritz Seider was an amazing prospect and still is a great defenseman, right? Top 10 defenseman in the league for sure.
Yep.
And so you have to think, is this something where Hronek's still the number one right D on the Canucks, so that can't be the problem. Is this something that the guys can easily get over? Or
I got a funny feeling it's got something to do with that game the night before, and I could be so wrong about that, but I mean, I have to think. I mean, how do you look yourself in the mirror the next day after that kind of a fucking, like what a way to. And you know what I also felt horrible about was Carson Soucy, who played so well and has played so well since it's been back. And it's funny because I'm sitting there with JoJo Mason watching the game, and it's like, how much time left? Like, he got that penalty with like 8 seconds left in regulation. And I said to JoJo, I actually said, don't shoot it out. Like, I just had a bad feeling that it's like, even if he had iced it, it would have been much preferable. So I do feel thankful we got the point, given how, I mean, we could have very easily come out of that losing in regulation.
That could have been because they were full force in that last period. Everything was hitting the net.
Yeah.
So 34 shots on goal, especially.
And then we had a power play that we did. I mean, fuck, talk about a time when, 3-3, we get a power play with like 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, like, God's sake.
Do something, guys.
And Pettersson was kind of off that night.
But then again, it goes to your point. Sometimes these players have good games, sometimes they don't. Plain and simple. Or sometimes they have, elements of their life that affect that game, and that's it. And the reason why I have a calm tone and calm demeanor when it comes to the Canucks is you look at the standings. I don't think Edmonton's catching up for first in the Pacific at all. You look at the wild card. I don't mind playing Nashville or Vegas, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think Logan Thompson does what he did last year.
I don't either.
I don't think he does that. I don't think Aiden Hill's going to be a stupendous playoff goalie.
No.
Right? Petriangelo, Shea Theodore, Alec Martinez. Those are your three. And Braden McNabb. That's their core four defensemen. I'm taking Quinn Hughes, Philip Hronek, Zadorov, Myers. I'm taking our defense over Vegas defense any day of the week.
I think Myers is back shortly too.
He is
They
back
said maybe
shortly.
Tomorrow, I heard.
They're looking as early as tomorrow. They just shifted actually from week to week to day. So crossing my fingers, he's back as well. But this is going to be fun hockey to watch. The next couple games, pad your stats, pad your place in the standings. You got an easy one coming up. You got, as mentioned before, Washington should be a relatively easy win, although they are competing for a wild card spot in the East because, yes, they are still in that hunt. So New York Islanders are second in the Eastern Conference wild card with 72 points. The Washington Capitals, 71. And Detroit's tied for them for that second wild card place as well.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
So that'll be an interesting one.
Washington is 1 point out right now,
That's that Metro Division race.
and they have a game advantage.
Yeah.
Oh no, they don't.
No, they don't.
Oh yes, they do. They have a game advantage on Detroit
They have a game on hand against Detroit, but
and on Tampa.
yes.
And then the Islanders, which has been
The Islanders have been weird like for the last 5 years, to my opinion. We won't go too off topic. They've just been weird, but Ilya Sorokin playing hot right now has definitely helped them lock in what they need to lock in.
What? Buffalo's not completely out yet either, at all.
I know Buffalo's not out completely. Like the Eastern wild card is still fairly competitive.
Even New Jersey and Pittsburgh. Wow. I'm just it's funny. I haven't been paying that much attention, but like between 7th on the wild card standings and first is
a 9-point difference between Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay, which isn't impossible to make up, but it's
mostly a 3-point difference. I didn't realize Pittsburgh was as in it still as they are.
They've won enough to keep themselves a name, but they haven't won enough to secure themselves as a contender still. And that's where Pittsburgh's criticism is. Am I laughing at Ottawa every day of the week? Yes. Am I laughing at Montreal every day of the week? Of course I am. Before we end this episode, we're going to look at the next couple games once again. Washington, Buffalo, Montreal, Calgary. Are you feeling good about those? Any standout game to you?
I just love seeing Ovechkin anytime. So it's one of those games like the Pittsburgh game where you kind of go, is this the last time I'm ever going to see this player? Is this the last time I'm ever going to see Sid and, Malkin and Letang together? Is this the last time we see Oshie and Ovechkin together? I just love seeing Washington. We should win this, not only because we're a much better team, but because, I will say this about the Canucks. When they have a stinker, generally speaking this year, they come right back. With the one exception of those 4 games, they have always come back strong after a stinker. And that was an embarrassing loss on Wednesday. It's not just that I almost think it's worse when you have one of those horrible games that you get blown out. Like, they should have won that game. There's going to be nobody on that team who's going to wake up the next day and feeling anything but, how the fuck did we let that go? And because that's so mental, it's such
mental
a mental
because
thing.
Colorado's a championship caliber team. When you lose to a championship caliber team the next day, and you had a 3-day break before that,
and they had back-to-back. So the whole thing, I think you're going to see them come out strong. Hopefully they can stay strong. So I feel pretty good about Washington. Buffalo always makes me nervous just because we play weird against them. I don't even know what our record is in the last 2 years, but I feel like we've lost as much as we've won.
Bowen Byram making his Vancouver return.
That's
as
interesting.
A Sabre. As a Buffalo Sabre, Bowen Byram will be making a Vancouver return.
That was such an interesting move. And I like Middlestat. I will say,
He looked great in Colorado. He's exactly what Colorado needed. Casey Middlestad is exactly what Colorado needed, and Sean Walker is exactly what Colorado needed as well.
Now, that's interesting that you say that because JoJo and I were both like, who the fuck is Sean Walker again?
So Sean Walker is a right-handed
Was
defenseman.
he Buffalo as well?
Philly. So he was acquired at
He
the
was
deadline.
very good in that game.
Yep. Sean Walker this is his breakout year as far as proper form is concerned. You know.
So why would Philadelphia? How old is he? Do you know?
I don't know too much about Sean Walker. Let's just bring him up here. But Sean Walker,
Because Philadelphia, you would think, would want to be keeping their.
Philadelphia had a really, really weird year.
Hold on, who did they get in return for Sean Walker?
Sean Walker trade. I believe I don't even think. Oh no, they got Ryan Johansson as part of that trade package.
Vancouver's Ryan Johansson.
North Vancouver product, Ryan Johansson. So Sean Walker went to Colorado for Ryan Johansson, a 2025 first.
And how old is Sean Walker? Does it say?
Sean Walker is 29 years old, so he's been in the league for a while.
Young.
He's not super
And how
young.
old is Johansson? He's got to be 27, 28.
Ryan, he might be. He's been in the league for
Is he
a
in his
while.
30s?
He's got to be in his 30s. Let's see. Yeah, he's 31.
Okay, that trade makes more sense to me on that basis.
So Philly's an interesting team, I think, because that's Samuel Erison kid has been playing great in goal. Where no one expected. He's met above his expectations. I'm sorry for going off topic, but I do admire what Briere did. He got picks, but he realized that his team's still in the midst of a playoff race, third in the Metropolitan with 76 points. You know, the Islanders, 72 points. They can catch up on you. But he didn't go full sale sell. He still acquired some picks to pad out the future. Yes, he let go Sean Walker, but then he also acquired Ryan Johansson.
Yep.
Because he had defensive depth. I think he did great. If Philadelphia is an underrated winner at the deadline and looking at them now, despite losing to the Leafs the way they did. But hey, Philly, good for you, man. And yeah, that's about it for me as far as my tangents are concerned. My last note, calm the fuck down, everybody. Don't overthink anything. Continue to enjoy the season and just ride it out. Quinn Hughes is still leading all defensemen in points with 76, and Cale Makar, after the last game, is now trailing him by only 3 points with 73.
Yeah, Makar was very human, I thought, in that game. I mean, he ended up getting some points, but I didn't think he was, he flubbed a lot of things too. He was not great in those first two periods.
Makar's that's kind of in his season though, as far as I'm not saying he's a bad defenseman or he's been inconsistent. Makar is an amazing defenseman, but he just hasn't been great when need be. And that's that's the wrong term, but he hasn't been great 24/7 like we expect him to be.
Yes.
And that's it for me, man. And I think we'll have a very happy week leading up to next episode because there'll be a lot more games. I predict a lot more wins than that. Even if you do lose to Washington, I think we can pull it off against Buffalo, Montreal, and Calgary with a good 3 wins. And that'll carry us out through what's honestly been a great homestand. And then after that, you finish off March against LA, Dallas, and Anaheim.
So, yeah, I mean, you got to think we're picking up points in most of those games.
Yeah, and pat it out, enjoy the rest of the season, and just keep on having fun as we record these episodes. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, God, the one thought I had yesterday when I was thinking about the Washington game was I couldn't shake the feeling that Tom Wilson's going to injure someone,
Everyone goes through that. That's why I'm happy when I see the Leafs acquire Ryan Reeves. And that's why I'm relieved when I see Dakota Joshua on the ice for the Canucks. As a forward, at least. But I don't think Tom Wilson's messing around and getting himself in a fight with either Zadorov or Myers or Ian Cole, who, I get is 6'1" only, but hits big. And 6'5" Carson Soucy, Tom Wilson better watch himself that game. Plain and simple.
Does Soucy fight?
Soucy doesn't fight often. But if you're telling me 6'5", 220 pounds of just pure muscle coming at you per game, Tom Wilson's not fucking with the.
Well, this is why the
massive
playoffs.
depth.
I mean, one of many reasons the playoffs are going to be interesting is we have a defense core that looks a lot like Vegas's defense core,
Better, in my opinion.
but big.
Exactly.
And that's something we've never really had. And going into the playoffs with some really big players is big defensemen is very comforting in some sort of weird way. Now we just have to hope Demko and Dakota Joshua are fine in time for the playoffs, and then I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, so am I. I think they will be fine going into the playoffs, and I think I'm being genuinely honest. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun games to watch, and I feel like a kid. Like I feel giddy seeing these games where I'm like, okay, Buffalo. I understand we haven't played great against them traditionally, but it'll be great to see Tage Thompson in Vancouver and see kind of that competition. Montreal. They always pack up Rogers Arena, Hats fans, similar to any Original Six fan base that comes in here. Any Original Six team that makes their way to Vancouver, they pack up Rogers Arena. Calgary, that's going to be a fun one because it's going to be, it should be an easy win. And
of course, there's all, because the return of Kuzmenko.
Yeah.
Lots of nice storylines. Zadorov and Lindholm playing their former team. I think that's going to be pretty interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And in general, I think all in all, I'm just ready to enjoy Canucks. I haven't felt like this ever, to just enjoy Canucks hockey and be confident that there are going to be wins in this scenario.
Well, I have felt it before, but not in
since 2015.
I'd say since 2011, to be honest. It's all the chaos sort of started after the Stanley Cup run.
Yeah. Even after the 2012, you know what? I'd say after the 2012 first round exit to LA, that's where
still painful.
That's
what else was
what
painful?
hits.
I had to pay for my playoff tickets.
No,
yesterday.
but you locked them in though. That's a good thing. You locked them in.
Of course, I locked them in.
Yeah, you locked them in.
I had
early.
to do it. I mean, I was not going to not do it. But get this: the cost of the play, they give you options. You can either pay as you play, or you can pay for it all up front, and then if we get knocked out, the balance goes towards your season tickets for the next year.
Okay.
But what's shocking in a way is the amount that you pay for the playoffs is the same that you pay for the entire season.
Really?
Same amount.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
I find that very
they
interesting.
jack it up
actually.
for the playoffs.
Yeah,
which, I get it.
Yeah. Well, that's your big ticket. That's your revenue.
Well, that's why all the owners, that's ultimately what they all care about. Obviously they want to win a Stanley Cup because they want to win a Stanley Cup, but the revenue that comes in just from tickets in the playoffs is outrageous. I was shocked.
Outrageous. It is. It's crazy. And that's why when Francesco's been on 650 a couple times, he said the goal is to have a playoff product for playoff revenue.
Yeah.
That's what he's looking at. And he's thinking as a businessman, not as a hockey guy or a hockey fan. He's thinking at it from a business perspective. So, you know what? If the Canucks win, Frankie's pockets get deep. As long as it's a cup, I'm happy. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
that's me. That's my form of piddly signing.
Well, it's funny because I was
episode.
thinking, if we win the cup, am I going to give up my season's tickets at that point? Am I going to be okay, good night, thank you, I'm out? It's I want to leave on a high, and
you just sign off forever.
yeah, it's thank you. It's been a great 50 years, and we finally got there. And fuck off. I'm gonna get season tickets to the Vancouver Canadians instead, or something, or become a Kraken fan. But no, I remain hopelessly devoted to this fucking team. So
yeah.
What can you do when you live in a shoe, as they say? So.
but the shoe is getting bigger and it looks a lot nicer this year.
It looks a lot nicer, yeah. So.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
everybody.
signing off for this
Hopefully back in a happy mood in a week.
Yeah, rest well, man.
Okay.
Get that pizza.
Signing off. Bye.
Bye.